So I was speaking about the MIDI data attached to every note, and you can see there is velocity, timbre, gain, panorama, pressure, and already on that level we can see that Bitwig has a lot of generative possibilities. So for example, we can dynamically change something in every note. For example, we can generate a velocity spread. So let's select last two notes, and here we can change the velocity spread. So we can add a house. And after I've done that, you can see there is a range around the note velocity, and every time I will play this note, it will generate the random velocity inside of this range. The same we can do basically for all the data attached to the notes. For example, I can add the random timbre. And we can change to timbre and see that it's generating all the time the different values. Okay, how we can use these values in the sound? If I turn back to the synthesizer, you can see we have expressions. This modulator already created after I just dropped the polymer synthesizer in the track. And it has direct output of every of these data parameters. So I can take velocity, I can take timbre. By default, velocity is, for example, mapped to the volume. That's parameter, that's knob called velocity sensitivity of 50%. That means is by default affecting the volume. So I can disable the velocity sensitivity and just use velocity for control of different aspects of the sound. For example, I can change the decay of ADSR, and I can take the timbre output and control something else. For example, I can control the shape of the sub-oscillator. Okay, cool. So we can continue. So basically I will shortly repeat. First, everything is recorded on my side too, so I hope that we can cut and upload the clean recording for you later. Then what I've done, I generated the random timbre and random velocity and was mapping that to the I removed the velocity mapping affecting the volume of the synthesizer and made the mapping from velocity output of expression modulator to the decay on the ADSR, and I took the timbre output and mapped it to the shape of the sub-oscillator. So that was the idea what I wanted to show, how we can generatively control the output of the notes. Then let me show something more, some more interesting approaches how we can generate the generative music even without the polygrid device, just using the generative possibilities inside of note expressions, note, like MIDI notes. So I will mute this channel, I will create a new instrument track. This time I will take the phase 4 synthesizer, and I will just go here, create a new clip, and I will draw just 2 long notes, one note here and one note a bit longer here. And if I also I will make a copy of note a bit higher somewhere here. What I want to make, I want to split these notes to more notes than one, which I can do using this repeat rate count parameter. And you can see now that this note has 4 notes inside. Then I will do the same on these 2 notes. Also I will make 5 notes. Then you can see we have a very cool controller here which can offset the timing. And here I will move it a bit in this direction. And now we have one note repeating several times in first part of the bar, and we have also 2 notes repeating several times on the second part of the bar. I don't want to play these 2 notes polyphonically. I just want to play some bars this C2 note and some bars the F2 note. So for that reason I can use the recurrence length, and I can, for example, select the F2, which should be played only on the first bar, and for C2 I will do the same and change it to the other 3 bars. So basically what I've done is corresponds to making the 9 notes and schedule them in 4 bars loop, but it's all contained in 1 bar loop with only 3 notes. So it's very flexible way to control. We can also control the velocity very easily. And now we have this sequence. Now I can also take the velocity and control the frequency cutoff with that, for example. And we can also add some, okay, that I show separately. I will also show a bit about this phase 4 synthesizer. It's the the synthesizer which has 4 oscillators, and these oscillators can modulate each other by these 4 knobs contained in every of these oscillators. So we can change the different wave shapes. Then we can apply the modulation. For example, if I will turn this red knob, I will modulate this blue oscillator. I can also apply the filter modulation. I can change the ratio. So it's also very flexible device which can create very complex sound. Okay, this is a small introduction to the other instrument and to usage of the repeat and recurrency in notes. I will mute this guy also, and what I want to show you now is how to work with the sound. I mean how to work with the audio samples. I can convert, for example, the first pattern we created into sound by clicking with right mouse button and converting it using the command bounce in place. That will turn that sound into sound sample. What is interesting, we still have the synthesizer on the track, and what we see right now we can describe as a hybrid track. That means we can have simultaneously the sound samples and the MIDI patterns on the same track. This is also very special in Bitwig because no other digital audio workstation can have this. And I will move that sample to the audio track, and I will show a bit of specific topics regarding the working with sound samples. So what is very interesting that, for example, in Ableton, audio sample is the atomic unit for the working with sound in audio tracks. In Bitwig we have much more low-level control, and inside of audio sample we can have onsets, or we can have the subsamples. For that we can just take the knife tool and split the track to several cuts. They should not be even length. And then we can use the same possibilities to generate random events on these onsets. So we can, for example, change the pitch randomly for these parts. So I can add some house into pitch, and let's play back what we have here. Okay, that's I would not say that sounds super melodic, but that was also just an example how we can randomize what is outputted from the sound samples. At least you can not only change the pitch here, but you also can have the random panorama and gain. So you can, for example, almost disable some of these parts by random sound. You can also have the chance of playing for these parts, so you can play back the same sample on very random generative way, which will obviously work well, for example, with drum patterns. Okay, I think I will show I will save this project for you later, so we will upload just that you can follow what I was doing. Do you have some questions right now before we start with the next topic? Okay, if you have questions, please write to the chat. And I want to switch now a bit to the topic of how to use the TDBitwig to integrate Bitwig with TouchDesigner. So basically, if we open the last TouchDesigner release, we can find here in the palette the TDBitwig bundle. There are several things here, several plugins, several components, and in order to understand what these components are doing, we should actually remind what we were talking here about. We have different levels of control over the Bitwig data, and all these operators corresponds to these levels of control. So first, in order to connect Bitwig to TouchDesigner, we can use the Bitwig main, and it's quite easy. It's just you just have here the Bitwig IP address. You don't need to change in most of cases anything here out of this parameter, and after you connected, after you loaded this Bitwig main component, it's already connected. So if you see that it's connected, you can work further. Then we have bunch of other components here. One component is a Bitwig track. Oh, no, sorry. Let's start with a Bitwig song. Song is a full project, and here you can control the Bitwig behavior. So you can control the transport, you can play, stop, you can switch recording, you can change the tempo, and it's all synchronized. So you can control Bitwig from TouchDesigner, and it returns a bunch of channels corresponding to the current transport playback values. So you can see what is actual tempo is returned, if it's playing, if it's recording, if loop is enabled, the loop start position, loop duration, playback fraction, transport position, etc., etc. So what is current bar is playing, what is position inside of bar. Okay, then in order to get more detailed, you have other operators, and first where we really need to dive in is the Bitwig track. Bitwig track will control one of Bitwig tracks, and here you can have different ways to control. You can just use one Bitwig track component to control any of tracks. For that you have next and previous tracks buttons where you can scroll between Bitwig tracks. Here you will see the name of the track, and same way like you can use Bitwig song to control the Bitwig parameters, you can also control track parameters. So you can make mute, unmute, active, unactive. You can control volume. So for example, I can deal with phase 4, so I can select previous track, mute it, turn back to the phase 4, unmute it, then I can go to Bitwig song, click play, and here you can see I can control the volume of the track, panorama, I can even control color, and I can control the FX sense. Okay, so let me stop the playback. Then inside of track, like we were speaking before, we have the clips and clip slots. So let's create both of them. Here we have again this track navigation part. We can go to the phase 4 pin track. Then we can see the slots. So the slot 0 is not empty. That's a basic sequence we have. We can rename it here. And name it first sequence. And turn back to TouchDesigner, and we will see that I wrote the name of the track wrong, but doesn't matter, we can see that name here. So we can launch this track, launch this clip slot. We can also record here, stop. Then we have a clip, Bitwig clip component. We should navigate to our track again. Then same way we can navigate between clips and pin clip. And here we have some additional controls about this clip. Launch quantization, launch mode, color, play start, play stop, if loop is enabled. And also these components will return some informational channels about what happens with this clip. Same here. Then logically out of clips we have also nodes. Inside of clips it's even deeper level of control, so we can create a Bitwig node. And that is a maybe most important operator for working with audiovisual synchronization, because here we can receive the actually played the notes actually played back. So we can navigate to our track, pin it, and I will go to the clip and launch it. And here we can see that node 48 and node 53 is playing. What is problematic now and still not realized in TDBitwig, TDBitwig don't understand these generative possibilities of Bitwig of playing the repeated notes. So it will not return the data about that. But we can have some workarounds using the node node FX, I think. So we can try to build in here the node length. Okay, why I cannot click on think I have to restart Bitwig somehow, because it doesn't respond anymore. So let me I do now the presentation on the beta version of Bitwig 5.1, so in some moments it's still buggy a bit. But we can recover. And I was trying to build in here the note length note fx, which can control the note length. So I will make it shorter than 1/16, or I can even control it in milliseconds. So let's try to go now and see what is coming to TouchDesigner. It's still very buggy, so it not always works. So in that case, I would say it's better either to use the separated notes to send it to TouchDesigner, and or we can basically create another MIDI track and instrument track. Let's take MIDI from phase 4, note length, and we can record. So now I have that sequence recorded, and I can okay, I recorded too short, but basically I just wanted to show you how we can work around. So I will make the shorter sequence, and important that MIDI notes to be properly sent to TouchDesigner need to be shorter. So I have to have the gaps between the MIDI notes. So now I can try to drop this clip back to phase 4, and we can see that now we responding the proper notes. And what is cool, even in comparison to TD Ableton, that is not only returns the note numbers, but you can translate index to pitch. So now you can see what particular note is playing by name. And the value of channel returned is actually the velocity. Okay, let's go forward. We have also some additional things called Bitwig Remote Device, Bitwig Remote Track, Bitwig Remote Project. That is a way to interact with tracks, with devices, and with the project itself. And for that I need to turn back to Bitwig to explain something more. In Bitwig we have not only modulators, we have also very flexible way how we can control the complex devices by making the remote controls. So that is these knobs, which are mapped to some particular knobs from the synthesizer or other built-in effects. And basically these remote controls can be on the device level, on the track level, and on the project level. That's super cool, because using that you can control the all parameters on one view. For example, if you can see here, I opened the show track remotes. So if I have some track remotes, like here, I can control everything inside of this track directly from that view. And if I bring track remotes to all tracks, I can have kind of user interface for all tracks. So during the live performance, I don't need to switch between tracks to see the values. I can control everything from here. That's super handy. And for that's is right for the remotes and for modulators. So we can have also the modulators on the device level, which can modulate any parameter of device and all built-in nested devices. We can have the track level modulators, which can modulate all devices on one track. And we can have the project level modulators, which can modulate any device in your project. And it's not not only right for the flexibility of control, it also can improve your computer performance. For example, if you want to use everywhere one sidechain from the kick drum, for example, you don't need to create it in every device and analyze the sound again and again and again. You can build one sidechain on the project level. So I think I can show my other project, which is more okay. Now I should find where is my kick is playing. Yeah, that can be inside of drum machine. So I can find it using drum machine and find the device inside. Yeah, kick post. And you can see that I have here one audio sidechain, and using that sidechain I can modulate now any parameter on any track. So I can use it on, for example, this cutoff filter. I can go somewhere to the other synthesizer and control something more. Like volume of this track. So one question I see in chat, if the track remotes working all with selected track. No, it can be, you can have the track remotes for every track, or you mean the track remotes in TouchDesigner? So you can have the track remotes for every track, and you can design your own track remotes. So you can create the new page. You also can see the Open Track Remotes Control Editor, and here you can create the additional control page. And in order to map the remotes, you just go here, click on this Wi-Fi button, and you can select any controls you want to be able to control from track remotes, and you have it. And then if you want to control device remotes, track remotes, or project remotes in TouchDesigner, you have correspondent devices. So you have, for example, Bitwig remote project, Bitwig remote track. Then you can scroll to the track you want to control. For example, in that case, I was working with polymer, so I can go to unpin track, then pin polymer, and you see that here I can select the remote control page. So now it's selected the perform page I just created, and you can see the cutoff, high pass, and decay parameter I just mapped. And if I bring the Bitwig back, you can see that I can, okay, sometimes this this is still not properly, not always properly working for my experience. Have no idea why. I think that TDBitwig is still a bit raw, not really ready. And as soon as I know from the developers, there are some problems in Bitwig API, so they're working on it still. Okay, answering to the question if we can have only one remote page controlled from TouchDesigner, no, because we can create so much of these Bitwig remote tracks devices we want, and just pin different tracks here. So I can go to the phase 4 now, and yeah, okay, that doesn't have any project remotes. So if I do them, I can create new page and map some parameters. And now I can try to control it from TouchDesigner. So you can see that I have these parameters I just mapped, and they don't work in any way. Sorry for that I cannot change. So basically, in case you want to use it in your performance and TDBitwig devices not really working, you can make workaround using MIDI mapping for these remote controls. Okay, maybe now is a good time to make something interesting from scratch. And let me save this project as well. and I will start a new TouchDesigner project, and I will save this Bitwig project. And I will create a new project. Save it. So what I wanted to make, I find very inspiring idea to use some loops which have sound inside. So we have several, I gathered several glitch loops which have some sound inside, and I want to play back them in sync to make a sound in Bitwig from these loops and to make visuals in TouchDesigner from the same loops. So that is my idea for some practical example for today, and I will start by dropping all these loops in TouchDesigner. I will create a base operator. I will also save the project to make relative paths from the start. And inside of base I will create the folder dot, and in folder dot I will choose to output only files and to output only movie extensions. So I have now the table of video loops, and then I want to bring these loops also inside of Bitwig using drum machine. So I will go to the instrument 1 and drop here the drum machine. Okay, Bitwig started to not respond again. I will do short restart. I just will load the Bitwig Studio earlier version, which is not beta. And do a new project here. Drop here the drum machine. And let's start from C1, bringing the videos. What is also very cool that you can drop MP4, the videos from Explorer directly into Bitwig as audio samples. And I just want to care about the order. So I will take first the leaders MP4, then I will bring here the noise blue lines 0.1, noise green 0.1. Okay, that was not proper. Noise green lines. Okay, so we have noise green, then we have noise green electric, then we have noise white, then we have noise white 2 and ring noise. Okay, now I have the corresponding amount of samples and I can start to make some sequence. So let's make some sequence. And play back. So we can adjust a bit the sound. Okay, that is a very basic setup. We can work on sound a bit later. So AV, and I will save it also to our working folder. And let's make the setup in TouchDesigner. So what I want to make a replicator to load all these samples, these video samples, and for that I will make a base operator, and that will be a prototype for replicating. So I will create a movie file in to load the movie. Then I want to refer this movie to the folder 1. So I will create some user interface control. So I will customize. I will drop here the dot parameter, and that will be called folder. Then I will create the volume. That will be float. Then I will make the play button, which should have pulse type. Then I will make offset to randomize the place where we play back the samples. That will be the float parameter. And for now that's all. So now I will drop this folder here, and let's make the component. So we going to load the load parameter dot, and then we going to make the select dot. So now I will select the dot which is corresponds to the folder parameter, op parameter 1, just p, just P. Then we need to load the row called folder and column called value. Then from here we load the by index, and we need to use the parent base digit. So we use for that parent digits. And copy to the end row index. And we should include the first row, which contains the path parameter. So now we going to load here the, that will be the M. Let's load op M square parenthesis, first row and column called path. So we loaded the movie. Then in order to control the volume, we're going to use the level and output the result to out. Then we should use the folder, the parameter chop to control the, let's select the volume and rename it to the level 1 colon opacity, and then we select another parameter called play. That should okay, I think I will replace the play by the integer. So I will make the customized component play, and I will change the style to integer. And here I'm going to change the name to the movie file in 1, and parameters called play. Then also we need to trigger the cue. For that we're going to create a trigger on the start, remove attack, sustain, decay and release. And if I open the parent parameter, if we start the play, we have a short trigger on the start. So that we should rename to the movie file in cue pulse. Now we have control of playback, and we can also use the offset to control the cue point, so that we will change here offset, and we set it to the cue point. And let's merge all these guys together. that, and that. And here we can make the export using the channel name is path parameter and click on export. So now we're controlling all parameters of the playback. That is should change the Q pulse. Yeah, now it should be mapped to the Q button, play, Q point, and the opacity. So let's save the project. And now we should generate the replicator. So let's create a replicator. The table will be the template.table. The base one will be the master operator. Before I drop it to the master operator, I do the base to be clone master for itself. So then if I change something in the base, it will be automatically inherited by the all replicated items. And now I drop it to the master operator. And we have 9 movies which we can use for our visuals. And now is a question how we will design the visuals. For that we can use several ways to work. We can just bring the layout on the end. We can mix them somehow. I will prefer to use instances. And for that reason I need to create the 2D texture array, which I can create by GLSL multitop. The idea of using 2D texture array is that I can easily use these movies as a textures on the planes, and that planes I will create as a geometry. So I will select all these guys, bring them to the GLSL multitop, and in order to generate the 2D texture array, we don't need too much of GLSL coding background. It's very easy. We can change the output type to 2D texture array. We change depth from input to custom and set 9 units. Then we change input mapping from all inputs to every slice to n inputs per slice. And then we go to template code and uncomment these 2 lines and comment this line. And now we have a 2D texture array which is synced to all different movies. And then we output that as a result of our base operation. So now I will save the project. Maybe I will set first the all volumes to 1 and play to 1, so we can see what happens inside. And then we can use this texture to generate the visualization. Now I'm going to create a grid. Yeah, I need to make one more thing inside. I need to make the fit, and I will fit all these movies to the size of 1000 by 1000 points and fit outside, so then we can have a square grids. And now I will create the grid with 3 by 3. And I need some geometry attribute which can be used as a texture W coordinate for select different 2D textures from the 2D texture array. For that reason, I will create the sort. I want to randomize the order of the points, and using the seed parameter I can change the order of the textures on the grid, and then I can generate the attribute by the point SOP, and in custom I will make the PID, which can be interpreted as a point ID, and use the integer and write here the small expression me.input point dot index. In order to check what I've done, I can use dot to SOP to dot, and then I can see that PID have a different values. That's cool. That will be used as a reference grid for the instancing. Now I can create a geometry. Inside of geometry I will make the grid 2 by 2. Then I will make the transform, or I just set the size to 0.5 and enable display render flag here. And here I going on the geometry component parameters, I go to instancing page, enable instancing. I will drop the null on the end of that network and drop this null to the default instance op. Then I can use the P1, P0, P1, P2 for the coordinates of the grid, and I need to scale the size of the grid, that we have some small gaps between the instanced grids. Now I will need the go to the instance2 page and set up the double instance W coordinate and set it to the PID. And now I can use the outputted texture on the material. So I will create the constant material and drop that as a texture, and drop this material to the geometry, and you can see that all these textures are separated around different instances. Now I can create a camera. Change the type of camera to the orthographic and create the render top for rendering. Now I will set up it to full HD resolution, save the project, and I can zoom my camera by changing the ortho width parameter, something like that. Okay, I don't see any questions for now. Then it's maybe a good moment to make some small announcement. So basically I want to tell you that we will run a 6-week course about audiovisual production with Bitwig and TouchDesigner, and we do today the announcement about this course. The program is not completely ready, it's like the draft, but basically we want to make the parallel teaching of both TouchDesigner and Bitwig, and do on the end of the course for last 2 weeks quite practical part about to making interactive audiovisual installation and about the audiovisual performance setup. So if you want to jump in, is a good time. The page is available, and I will put the address URL to the chat a bit later. It's howtotouch.com/TDBitwig, and let's continue to our lesson. Okay, now is a good moment to make the connection between the TouchDesigner and Bitwig. So what we will need to get the MIDI notes. I done the connection in order between how the textures were loading with the notes, especially to really synchronize. And now we have to bring some TDBitwig devices here, so we can drop here the Bitwig main to make the connection. Then we go to drop the Bitwig node, and it's already pinned to the drum machine. And now we can play back. So now we can see that we have the notes starting from 36 and going until 42. In order to bring our notes in proper order, I would prefer to generate first the channels and then to control them by replace chop. So for that I will create a constant and I will generate the note channels by the pattern matching node slash square parenthesis 36 until 42. So now I have 7 channels. That is not so good because we need to have 9 channels. So let me check what is the problem here. Okay, until 44. So now we have the 9 channels in proper order, what is important. And then I will take the output from the Bitwig nodes and use the replace chop to replace the channel values by names. So now I will be sure, even if some note was not played yet, that the order of channels will be proper. Then I will take the rename and rename them to the let's call this from base 1 to the move leap. And now I can rename the channels to the move leap slash item, and then we have items going from 1 until 9. That will be the path to the operators, and then we use the nodes as a volume control. Basically yeah, and we have a play. So we can do two things. We rename it again, rename, then we add here the asterisk colon play. That will be controlling the video playback, and for controlling the transparency, which was volume channel, we can use the, okay, let's play back and test. Okay, we can actually use the velocity. So that's mean for the playback we just need to insert here the logic operator, because we need to set the playback from 0 to 1, and to velocity we will add some small lag to blend the transparency a bit smoother. So we just use the 0.2 on the leg out. Then we use the mat operator to map the velocity from 100 to 0 to 1. And then we rename it to the volume, I think with big V. So we add asterisk colon volume. What else? For now is all. First we can achieve that way the basic playback control. So for that we're going to merge these channels. And we output export method, channel name is path parameter, and we click on export. And because we used these template names, we can control all our replicated items with only one export button. That is very, very powerful possibility of TouchDesigner. And now we can test. Okay, now I want to make a bit more, something more interesting than just that. What I want to change here, I want to first I want to mix the position of textures on the grid every second bar, let's say, using random generator. So that's I can do already here. I go to the project remotes and I will set up the output of data from the project remotes to TouchDesigner. For that I need first to create a modulator, which will be called just the random, and I will set to generate random values every second bar, and I will create a new page. Then it's a tricky question how I can get this data to the remote control. That way I found is actually to create another modulator which is the macro. Macro is a knob. Then I can modulate that knob by the random value. And then I can map this knob to remote. And now if I play back, you will see by this blue line around the knob the random values outputted by the random modulator. So now I can go back to TouchDesigner and I can capture that by the Bitwig remote project. And here you can see that Bitwig remote project returns the okay, let's set up it first properly. We need to check the remote control page called perform. And you can see that we have parameter 0/value and parameter 0/modulated value. So we need to take this modulated value to get the actual modulated data from Bitwig to TouchDesigner. So I will use a select chop here and I will choose this par 0 modulated value. Then I will multiply it by 10 and then I need to drop it to the seed parameter here. So that time I just can use null and just make a chop reference. Now on every second bar the order of the grid will change. Next thing I want to make, I want to control the playback start. So for all of my, or at least for several of my samples, if I go inside of sampler, you can see here we have a play start parameter. So we can modulate this play start parameter. And there are two choices on that point. Do we want to modulate it from TouchDesigner and send it here to Bitwig, or do we want to modulate it in Bitwig and send the modulated start back to TouchDesigner? I tried in my example what I want to upload for you using the first way, sending the data from TouchDesigner to Bitwig, but what I found, it's buggy. So now I will try to do the opposite thing, and you can see that I have perform page for the sampler, and it already has a start position. So what I want to make now the track remote. I will do the perform page and map that to the start position here. Then I go to the second one. I will start. I will rename it to start 1. Then I do the same for perform for the second sample, start 2. Then I do the next sample, select the perform page here, map it to the start position, start 4 or 3, and I go to that one and repeat. Then I go to the next one and go to perform page, repeat. Then to the next one. Then to the next one. Seven, and then to the last one. Okay, now I can capture these times in TouchDesigner, but first I think I need to care about the modulation. And logically, it would be cool somehow to check the length of the tracks. I think for that we don't have so much time already, but I will try to do it for several of tracks. And let's start with the first one, which has 5 parts. So we should go with step of 20%. Let me think how we can achieve that right now. We can do it by using steps, and you can see here in lower part of Bitwig interface we can actually see the precise values. It's not that easy. Maybe I will find and update you with other approach how it can be done easily, but let's make a 5-step sequencer and change the synchronization to bar and modulate the start one parameter by that. Then we can try something else for the second one. What is the par sequence 8? Okay, we have that way. So the second sequence has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also. So we can set it to the bar, or even we can generate a random value to every note theoretically, but let's stay with bars. And we can set it to, okay, no, I think this is not so cool. Let's just make with the random generator. I think we don't have so much time right now. And let's set it to bar and generate it on every bar, the random values, and modulate a second. Then we can copy that modulator, paste here, paste here, paste here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paste, paste, and paste. And now we can modulate. And last one. And now we can use the track remotes to capture these values back to TouchDesigner. So I will drop the Bitwig remotes track, and the remote page called perform. So basically we can use these modulated values. We select all channels called mod val, and then we need to rename them to the offset parameter we made in our items. So we just use the another rename, here, and add here the colon and offset, and then we will just bring it to the merge, and we have movies which are offsetted the same value like in Bitwig. So we can now add a bit of something interesting on sound. You can see the nice possibility to select the track separately, subtrack of drum machine. So I will close now the visualization of track and project remotes. I will also modulate the start parameter of the leaders. For that I can use something like segments and map it to the 16 bars. Then I can draw something interesting here and use that for modulating the play start. Then I need to make this remove the panorama and the sound here, and I use tool for that, and I will change the width to 0. Then I will add some compressor here. Then I will add some step to change the pitch. Then I will add some filter. Then maybe we need some modulation on the filter. Something like 6 bars. We also might need some effects. I will put here the convolution reverb. So I will adjust the other sound channels also. Do you hear now? Okay, I think it's all for today, more or less, what I planned to tell you about. Like last information about our planned course, you can find the page here. And yeah, please ask questions, and I think my friends from TDSW wanted also to tell something on the end of the course, of the lesson.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So yeah, everyone, if you have any question, please can just comment on the chat. Yes, Dan, there's a question.
Yeah, 1 second. Oops. Logically, yeah, the question was, does TouchDesigner have touch compatible controls you can create for controlling Bitwig? So basically yes, because in TouchDesigner we can deal with a touch screen, so we can create any kind of touchable user interface, and then we can try to send these channels back to the track, project or device remotes using the TDBitwig devices.
Oh.
So basically, yeah, you can also use any kind of interactive sensors for sending the control channels to Bitwig. Any other questions? So basically also Bitwig itself works quite well with touch screens, because you can switch it to the touch screen mode, and you can use all these I think if you use all of these knobs, you can easily control your performance with touch screen.
Oh, here's another question.
Can a timeline send OSC output control to TD? Logically, yes. Also, if you just send, you can automate. Yeah, you can make automation. So if I will drop the clip here, and I can enable the playback in arranger, then I can automate, and I can have a track controls here, and automate them. So for example, if I would add a new page and make a new slider here, and map this slider, oops, slider, then I can automate it easily here. And also, like, automation in Bitwig is very cool, so you can make the smooth blending between key points, and then you can send it over track remotes again. Can Bitwig receive LTC timecode start? So basically, I don't try it yet to control Bitwig per timecode, but because we have the song control here, and song control have the play and stop buttons, you can control this from TouchDesigner using LTC timecode easily. That is a very good question. Last one, can you send audio rate signals over to TouchDesigner and back? Basically, you can use the virtual sound card. Like, for example, if I would play some sound in audio file in, and then I will use the audio device out, and then I use the question if I have installed here the some virtual sound card driver. Okay, so you can use I don't have it on this machine, but basically you can send it using the any kind of virtual sound card to Bitwig. Using Jack, using Dante,